Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week, we're joined by a brand new guest talking about their life and their journey throughout the world of martial arts. My guest today has been involved in martial arts for 25 years. In 2017, he started Somerset Applied Karate, and in 2019, he attained his fourth Dan under Iain Abernathy. In addition to martial arts, he's involved with art and design and has done work for other martial arts clubs. He's also a fan of comic books, video games, and TV and movies. He's also the co-host of the Conversations on Karate podcast. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Greg Lynham. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. I'm really pleased with how cool you made me sound there. You made me sound way better than I could ever make myself sound.
I pride myself on my intros. Those are that's why I asked for the bio. I like to make the intro sound. I actually had one of my guests have me send him the recording of his intro so he could have it.
I was going to say I'm going to use that. I'm going to put that on on my social media or something.
Oh, there you go. Nice. So what we do with all my guests, I want to jump into the beginning. I want to know what that first interest, that first spark that led to your interest in martial arts.
My first interest in martial arts was the Power Rangers, believe it or not.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, back in the day. I started in 97 was when I started martial arts.
Okay.
When I was 7 years old. And I think it was, to be honest, it was probably a combination of me being just a shy kid and my parents wanting to get me into some kind of sport, I think.
Okay.
And that kind of coincided with me going, the Power Rangers are really cool. So I think they immediately jumped on that and was like, you like the Power Rangers? Let's try martial arts.
Nice.
And that's where it started.
Okay. And what was that first style you studied?
So I started off in Shotokan karate.
Okay.
Our club was Shotokan karate and kickboxing, so it was kind of a blend of the two, really. And that's where I stayed pretty much.
Okay. So think back to those early few classes, those first 1, 2, 3 classes. Once you got into it, what was it that made you want to stay, specifically about that style, specifically about that school?
In terms of the style in school, that was obviously the only one I really knew at that point. But what made me stay, to be honest, was kind of just the people there. It was a really big class at the time, I remember, and there was quite a lot of, it was a mixture of kids and adults.
Okay.
So there was the combination of having, I think, kids my age to hang out with and train with who were into the same kind of stuff as me. And then there was also like the adults at the other end looking up at them going, that looks really cool. I want to do that.
Nice. And what about your first instructor? Yeah. What are some things you remember about your instructor?
So my first instructor, if anyone listens to the podcast, you'll hear the name Jeff thrown about a lot.
Okay.
Jeff Richards was my main teacher for most of those 25 years really. And we're still, he doesn't teach anymore now, but we still kind of catch up regularly. I'm trying to get him on our podcast, but we'll need about 6 hours because he can talk for a long, long time.
Well, that's good though.
Yeah, but no, what really struck me about him, and the more I kind of think back, the more I realise, I don't know how rare it is, maybe, but he was always involved in the training with everyone. He would train with everyone, partner up with everyone as much as he could. He would always spar with everyone. Yeah, so he was just a really involved teacher, and I liked that. And I try and kind of be like that as best I can.
And anytime I meet someone who studied Shotokan, because Shotokan was my second style I learned when I was in high school. I got to ask, did your school have the Makiwara board?
No.
Really?
No.
Oh man.
No. I mean, we were in a. I mean, I don't want to. I could make it sound really cool and say that we had our own amazing dojo, but we trained in literally a school hall. So we used kick shields and focus mitts and that kind of stuff. But no Makiwara board.
Bummer. Okay. That was the first thing when I started Shotokan. That's the first day. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I've never seen that before. So
yeah,
it was kind of cool. But
is that a common thing? Is it in most Shotokan schools? Am I kind of
I think
missing out?
for at least the Shotokan people I've met, it's been about half and half. It really kind of depends, kind of like the same situation. I think if they had their own actual physical location, their own building, a lot more of them had it, versus if they rented from someone else, then a lot of them didn't. So it's about half and half, but it's And then also the traditional Taekwondo school they had their Korean version of a makiwara board that was a little bit different. Like the traditional Japanese one is one that wrapped with like tight rope around it, and the Korean one had more of just a kind of a really light padding over it with like a tarp over it. So same idea, but a little bit different. So
yeah, I do have one actually. I have like a hanging one, but I haven't got around to taking to the dojo yet. So I will do.
Nice. So then, thinking about some of those early classes, now you said you started in '97. Think about maybe your first 2-3 years. How different were the classes then compared to the classes you yourself teach now? Kind of as far as how hard they were, how much different it is versus how you teach adults and kids and everything. Just what are some of the differences that kind of stand out from back then?
I mean, we are very much moving away from the quote unquote traditional way of karate in my own class now. So we do, back then it was obviously your standard, you did a lot of line work, there was a lot of kata, traditional kumite, your 3 steps, 5 steps, 1 steps, that kind of thing. But like I said, we did have that difference, as in we did do a lot of kickboxing style drills as well. So it was kind of a combination of the two.
Okay.
But yeah, in terms of the line work and stuff, we rarely do that now.
Oh, okay.
Just because personally I don't. We'll use it if we need to use it, if someone needs it.
Right.
But in terms of making the whole group do it for most of the lesson, we don't tend to do that anymore.
Okay.
So that's kind of the stuff I've ditched from those early years. But a lot of the stuff I've kept, obviously we still do kata. We don't do it anywhere near as much as we used to. And a lot of the kickboxing style, the ways we used to train, we've definitely kept a lot of that as well.
Nice. Okay. And then did your school take part in any kind of competition? And is that something you got involved in?
We did back in the day. So we did for a while when I was kind of my first few years there, we did. And I did a few. And then kind of after those few years, it kind of dropped off. I think just because where we were locally, there wasn't a lot of competitions to actually be involved in.
Okay.
And then after that, when I kind of progressed up, I kind of took the stance of, well, competition's not real. Karate anyway.
Right.
Yeah. I was one of those guys for a while.
Okay.
And then for a long time, to be fair, I was fairly self-defense focused, and I was like, competition's not self-defense, all that stuff, until fairly recently. So I competed this year for the first time since I was a kid.
Wow. How'd that go?
Which was, it went all right. I mean, I didn't win, but it went all right. It was a good experience, and it definitely made me want to go back in and do some more. So I'm looking to try and compete again this year.
Nice. And what did you compete in? Did you compete in sparring? Did you compete in forms?
Yeah, it was sparring, yeah.
Okay.
So it was a group, I'll give them a shout out to be fair. It's Applied Karate Academy out of Bournemouth in the UK. They put on a competition. The rule set was basically the rules for karate combat. I don't know if you've ever seen that. That Baz Rutan runs.
Oh, yes, yes. But
is heavily involved with.
Yes.
It was that rule set. So it was kind of your stand-up striking. You could grapple for a bit. And if it went to the ground, you get kind of 5 seconds to ground and pound before you get stood back up.
Okay, cool. That must have been kind of fun then.
It was fun, yeah. It was a good experience. It was good.
Back in, what age level and what belt level did you start teaching?
So I started teaching, well, I say teaching is a loose term. I started
assisting, helping, yeah.
Yeah. Basically, as soon as I got my first dan, and I was really young when I got my first dan, I was like kind of 13.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was one of the, like a cadet first dan is what they kind of call it. So then when you get to the actual age, then you essentially regrade to your adult first dan. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I was teaching then, but I would definitely help out in terms of, showing people kata and things like that.
Okay. And I mean, obviously you enjoyed it because, at some point you ended up kind of starting your own school. So, what kind of led to that? What led to that decision to want to start your own school?
Well, so when my instructor, he retired, he had a few injuries, and he was kind of just not falling out of love with karate, but he was, I think, getting frustrated that he couldn't teach and train the way that he used to.
Right.
So he kind of let me know that he was thinking of giving up the school and asked if I wanted to take it over. And I said, yeah, of course, absolutely. So I did for a while, probably about a year, I think I was carrying on. And to be honest, I kind of not let it die a death, but I wasn't experienced in running a school.
Okay.
So it was kind of like, oh God, this is a bit different. And it was so around sort of the start of 2018, I think. I met a guy called Joe Andrews who was running another karate club kind of down the road from me. And we kind of started training together and realised we just joined the same association, with the British Combat Karate Association. Yeah, then we kind of linked up. So yeah, we joined up together, and that's where Somerset Applied Karate came from.
So how do you think that your Somerset Applied Karate, how do you think that's different from other schools?
I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but in terms of the traditional karate schools, I would say it's very different. Like I said, we spend not a lot of time up and down in lines doing solo stuff, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The way I kind of explain it to people now when they ask what it is it's kind of karate in name only. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's MMA because it's not MMA.
Right.
And I don't want to make the claim that, we're some kind of MMA fighters or anything like that, because we're absolutely not. But it is kind of going that way in terms of the way we train. It's far more kind of live sparring focused and things like that.
Okay. So it's not...
So I can't speak for how different it is to the other applied groups, but
right.
It's definitely different from the traditional groups. Yeah.
So you definitely wouldn't consider it a Shotokan school anymore, or would you, do you still teach?
No, I wouldn't. We still obviously use a lot of the Shotokan base.
Okay. Because
that's where we come from, like in terms of kata and things like that. But no, I think it wouldn't be fair for us to say that we teach Shotokan. If a traditional Shotokan purist came to us
mm-hmm.
thinking they were going to train what they're used to, then that's definitely not what we do.
So they definitely be surprised.
Advertise as that's what we do. Yeah.
Okay. So then you it's a little closer to MMA, but not quite. So obviously, I'm assuming you throw in the ground fighting and everything. So have you gone out and sought additional training for that? Have you done like jiu-jitsu training, judo training, other martial arts?
Absolutely. So I'm training in Brazilian jiu-jitsu alongside the karate now.
Okay.
And that was I was reluctant to do it for a long time.
Right.
Because I was under the impression that the jiu-jitsu guys, they're just savages who roll around on the ground and it's not martial arts. Yeah. I was one of those.
Okay.
Eventually. It was kind of Matt Jardine, who's been a guest on our podcast a few times, he's done Brazilian jiu-jitsu for years, kind of convinced me. He said, just go and try it, and it will change your karate as it changed his. And yeah, he was right. It's definitely opened up my eyes to a lot of what traditional karate lacks, and even what, to be honest, some of the applied karate lacks.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good compliment, I think, to the karate training.
How long have you been doing the BJJ then?
Not long. Probably about 8 months.
Okay. And have you started bringing some of that into your classes then and teaching some of that stuff also?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just very conscious that I'm nowhere near a level that would qualify me as a BJJ coach,
right?
Or anything like that. So the stuff we do bring in is the really, really bare bones basic stuff. We're definitely not doing anything advanced or anything like that.
And so have you had any of your students compete in MMA?
No, we like I said, we've recently just started bringing in the competition aspect.
Okay.
So it would definitely be cool. I'd like to get some of our guys competing, maybe not in MMA straight away. If they wanted to do it, absolutely.
Right.
But we want to try and maybe start running our own competitions at some point.
Oh.
Just to give people an avenue to compete in, because there's just not a lot where we are. It's very limited.
Okay.
So
about how many martial arts schools are there probably within like maybe a 20, 30 mile radius of where you are?
Martial arts schools, there's a fair amount, I would say. Karate schools, probably not that many. I wouldn't know a number off the top of my head. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 within sort of 10 miles from us.
Oh.
Not that many. We're a fairly small area.
So what is kind of like the prevalent style over there? What's, like in the U.S., almost every city has a Taekwondo school. What is it over there? What's the style that has the most representation probably?
I think it's turning into BJJ, it feels like.
Okay, I've heard that from a few people.
Yeah, it feels like you can't go anywhere without running into a BJJ school. I mean, which is great, fair play to them. It's definitely kind of the martial art that I think people want to do at the moment. I don't know if that's down to the UFC maybe or what, but or they're just good at advertising. I'm not sure, but I feel it used to be karate, and I think in the UK it's probably Shotokan. Back in the day, it was definitely the prevalent style. But yeah, it seems more and more lately is BJJ seems to be taking over everything.
So do you any plans of actually competing in some BJJ tournaments in the future for yourself? Is that any interest?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'd love to. I mean, I don't feel I'm at a level yet where I would do it just yet, but in the future definitely I'd like to.
And then so your current school or even your older school now, did you do any weapons training at all? Is that something that you ever did a part of or that you do now?
No, it's not. No, we never did. Sue, who does the podcast with me, she started doing some online Zoom training with Sensei James Hatch, who lives in Tokyo, and I think he's third dan in Okinawa and Kabuto.
Okay.
So she started learning some weapons training from him just over Zoom. So she was doing a little bit, but no, for the rest of us, no, never. I've never done it. I'd definitely like to give it a try.
It's fun. Weapons is fun. That's I think every school I've trained at except one has had some type of weapons. So
really?
The only one that didn't was the Shotokan school. That one, it's they never did. We never did weapons. My Tung Sudo school did. My Taekwondo school did. My American Kempo school did. So yeah.
Were they kind of like your traditional bow and?
Yep. Yeah. So my Tung Sudo school, when I was 10. So back then they wouldn't actually let kids do weapons. So I didn't get to do them in class, but we had a local sporting goods store who would actually sell martial arts weapons to kids, which now I think is probably illegal. But I mean, I literally walked into a store and I could buy bow staff, nunchuck, butterfly knife when I was like 10 or 11 years old, which is kind of scary when you think about it. Yeah. But the most weapons training I've had has been in my traditional Taekwondo school, but we've done bow, we've done sword, we've done nunchuck, we've done 3-sectional staff, we've done short staff, we've done sai, we've done tonfa, pretty much any weapon you can probably think of, we've done it at some point. So yeah, nice. It's fun. It just adds another level to your training, and it's a lot of fun. And my favorite is probably bow staff, because to me that's probably the most practical, because if you could use a broomstick, you could use a pool cue or something like that, and it's absolutely actually know how to handle yourself. So I do find the weapons stuff fascinating, even just from like a historical perspective. I think it's just a really cool section of martial arts history. I love it. Good. Well, hopefully you'll find a time to start doing that then. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I'd like to, for sure.
So now you mentioned Sue. That was going to bring my next question. So talk about, first of all, how you met Sue, and then how the idea for the podcast came about.
How I met Sue. So Sue, she started training before my instructor retired. So when it was still his club, and I think it was only probably about 6 months to a year before that finished that she started. And then, she was just one of the ones that stuck with me when I took the club over. And eventually, she came to train with Joe when I did. It was basically me, Sue, and then another one of our friends called Brad, who trained with us at the time. The three of us kind of went over to start training with Joe. Okay. Yeah, the podcast came from essentially Sue asking me questions during training. So we would, the three of us would get together on a separate night and just train ourselves, to kind of, just because that's what we were used to. So we kind of just got some extra training in. And Brad was normally late. So the time we spent waiting for Brad was Sue asking me questions about things.
Nice.
And then it was her idea to say, I'd love to turn this into a podcast. I think it'd be kind of cool, the idea of a student asking the teacher questions. And I said, all right, let's give it a go. That's my version of, I'd like to give it a go. It was more like, I'm too scared to do that. No one will want to listen to what I have to say. But we gave it a go, and we really enjoed doing it. So it just went from there, really.
And how often do you release episodes?
We tend to do maybe one every other week. We try and get done.
Okay.
It was definitely more infrequent, but we've tried to be a bit more strict with it.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, we're definitely not as organized and professional as you by the sound of it.
Yeah, like I said, I get a little crazy. If I think I'm going to miss a week, I'll pull my hair out, and I don't have much to pull out. So I have to do it. I have to figure this out. I have to find a way to. And I'll find someone to do an interview, and I'll stay up all night editing it so I can get it ready. I've done. Yeah. Let's see. One of my usually I release the episode just before midnight, so it's on all the apps by the next morning. And my worst one, I think I was still editing it at 3 a.m. to get it ready.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just because I had to get it done. But Obviously, I've gotten better at it over the 2 years, and I can usually know what I'm listening for a little better, and I can edit a little quicker, so that's good. It gets easier. So
yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Sue literally does all the editing.
okay,
I turn up, I talk nonsense for an hour, and then Sue deals with the rest.
okay. So now looking at
if it wasn't for Sue, we wouldn't have the podcast.
Nice. Well, looking at the episodes, so it looks like some of the episodes are just the two of you, and then sometimes you have guests. So just what can people expect if they tune in and listen?
You can expect me talking nonsense for a while.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just the two of us, we kind of just talk and see what happens. Where there's two of us, we sometimes go in with a topic we want to talk about, but we kind of the whole podcast started from just us having a conversation, seeing where it went. So that's kind of where we like to keep it.
Okay.
So it's kind of, I guess if you listen to just the two of us, it's kind of just like sitting in a room with us while we're having a conversation.
Nice.
And then, the guests, obviously, we're a little bit more prepared to talk about, depending on who the guest is. We've recently started doing more and more UFC episodes.
Oh, okay.
With Matt Jardine, who he joins us for those. We kind of, after every kind of big UFC pay-per-view, we get together and talk about that, mainly from what can we learn from watching it. That's what we kind of try and turn it into.
Okay.
You can expect to listen to me and Sue chatting about anything and everything, and sometimes a little bit of martial arts.
Nice.
And then, the guest ones are definitely more professional.
Okay. And who are some of the guests you've had? Some of the ones that stand out?
One of the recent ones that really stood out, we had Baz Rutten, which was really cool.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, we managed to get him, which was thanks to another one of our guests, who's Chris Hansen, who runs Karate Unity, and he's everywhere. If you haven't seen him, if you just search Karate Unity, he's everywhere. He's an awesome guy, and he put us into contact with him. So that was down to Chris, really. So yeah, we've had Baz Rutten, Chris, we spoke to Iain Abernathy.
Nice.
Patrick McCarthy was a really fun one. We spoke to him for about 4 hours, I think.
Wow.
I think we asked one question, and then Pat talked for 4 hours. It was great.
That's awesome.
And we spoke to Chuck Merriman as well I think it was either last year or the year before.
Okay.
Shortly before he passed away, which was a really, really great conversation to have.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Man.
there are a few. There's plenty more that I'm definitely missing, but yeah, it's something I definitely never thought I'd be sat down speaking to Baz Rutten. So
yeah,
it's cool.
I actually just put in my request to get him about 2 weeks ago, so I'm waiting to hear back from his assistant. So fingers crossed.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, he'd be fun to talk to.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, I've been.
Yeah. Oh, he's brilliant. Yeah.
When I was in radio for years, I mean, it was hard to get some big name guests. It really was, but it seems like it's easier for podcasters. I mean, I've been lucky. I mean, I've had, some of Bruce Lee's original students. I just had Simon Rhee. I just interviewed 2 days ago.
I've seen some of your guests. I've been looking through it, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, I know. It's been like, really? I mean, when they say yes, I'm sometimes a little shocked. So
yeah, I know the feeling.
Because when I had the idea for the show, I reached out to a lot of people, and it's like, if this many people say yes, then I'll do the show. If I get a bunch of no's, and like the first 30 people I asked all said yes, I'm like, oh, okay. So that's kind of cool. I guess we're doing a show. But yeah, it's just fun. Awesome. And I've had many people tell me it's so important, especially, like you said, you had the one guest that passed away. It's like those are the important ones, because for all you know, you could have been their last interview. I interviewed James DeMille, who was one of Bruce Lee's original students in Seattle in the 50s. And I was his last interview before he died. And it's like, oh, wow. Those are important. That's historical. The fact that someone's recording it and having a conversation, letting these people tell their stories. It's so, so important what we do. So it's fun too when we enjoy it, but it's also really, really important.
Absolutely, for sure.
That's good.
So who would be one of your guests that you haven't had that you desperately want?
Well, obviously one that I'd love to get that I know I'm not going to, because he doesn't really do interviews anymore, is Chuck Norris. I mean, obviously that'd be really, that'd be really, really cool. But I'm trying to think. I mean, there's so many huge ones. I'm trying to get Bill Superfoot Wallace. I think he'd be, and I'd love to get Benny the Jet Urquidez. Those are two from the beginning that I've been really hoping to get. I've had some of my dream guests. I mean, I had Simon Rhee, I had Adrian Paul from Highlander, another great one. People, I'd love to get Randy Couture. I think he'd be fun. He'd be fun to chat with. I think I'm getting Greg Jackson in a couple weeks, which will be kind of cool. So, I mean, it's.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I interviewed his manager and he, not his manager, but his school manager. And he basically said, he said he'd set it up for me. So,
oh, cool.
So yeah, kind of excited about that. Frank Grillo is a dream guest. I'd love to get him. I mean, love the TV show Kingdom. Obviously, like someone like a Jackie Chan or a Jet Li. Those are ones I haven't even tried, but I might. Just worst they can do is say no. So
absolutely,
yeah. So I mean, I have a lot, and one of the first guests I thought about when I was doing the show was I don't know if you watch the American Ninja Warrior competition, like the obstacle course competitions. There's a competitor named Jessie.
I know. I've never watched it, but I know what you mean.
Okay, yeah. Well, Jessie Graff, she's one of the top female competitors on there, but she's also like a 4th degree black belt in Taekwondo and Judo, and she's a stunt woman. She was like a stunt woman in the Wonder Woman movie, and she's done stuff like that. I'd love to get her. I've been trying to get her. I'm also trying to get Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter.
Oh wow, that would be
yeah. So, but I mean, I've had Ed Parker Jr. on my show. I've had so I every time I'm like I'd love to get this person, but man, I've also had this person, and this person. So it's I'm definitely blessed.
Sure. Yeah, you definitely had some good names.
Yeah, and I've only had a couple people flat out say no. And I've had 2 guests try to charge me to be on the show. So,
oh really?
Yeah. And for them, I'm like, no, I don't make any money doing the show, so I'm not going to pay you. And,
no, absolutely.
When bigger names than that are saying yes, like, okay, no, I'll just go with that.
Sure.
Sensei Fumio Demura, I just had a few weeks ago.
I saw that.
That was probably. Yeah, I mean, that one was shocking. That was, another one of those just super important interviews. Such a gracious man.
Absolutely.
Amazing storyteller. So, yeah, it's cool. I'd also love to get Pat Johnson. Pat Johnson's another one I won't mind getting. So, so yeah, I got my list. How about you? Who are some of your dream guests you'd like to get?
Oh, wow. I'd love to speak to, if I'm going really pie in the sky, George St. Pierre would be one.
Oh, that'd be fun.
That I'd love to speak to. Just because I think he, in terms of like a karate practitioner who's taken it all the way to the top, there's no one really better than him, I don't think.
Right. Yeah, he'd be good.
So yeah, he would be one. Oh, who else? Throwing me on the spot now. His coach would be another good one. Faraz Sahabi would be a great one for me to talk to. Some of the old school MMA guys, like you said, Randy Couture would be good. And to be honest, I'd like to just speak to some of the guests we've already had again.
Oh, okay.
Because it's been a couple of years since we spoke, and I think we're far better at speaking to people now. Do you know what I mean? So I think we get a far different conversation than we had then. So that would be kind of interesting. Definitely Pat McCarthy I'd love to speak to again. Yeah. That's
actually a good point. Because, I listened to some of my first maybe 10 or 15 interviews, and there's questions I wish I would have asked that I didn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Even though I kind of have
that. And also at the time, you're kind of awestruck sometimes as well. So you just kind of sat there going, am I really doing this?
True. So yeah, no, that's actually a great point. And it's, at some point I'll probably get to the point where I'll go back and maybe bring some other guests on. But, it's at this point, I'm just having so much fun bringing new people on and chatting with new people. Yeah, one of my goals is I want to have the host of every martial arts podcast out there on my show, because it's
that's a cool idea.
Yeah, just because I love listening to them, and it's to me we can all help each other. We're all kind of the same mission. We're spreading the love of martial arts, and there's
yeah, for sure.
And I don't know, I need to look and see how many of them are still active, because there's a lot that are out there that aren't active, that maybe went for a little while and stopped. But I've had I think 5, 6, or 7 of them on my show already, so. Which is good. So yeah, it's and
yeah, the martial arts podcast world seems to have taken. Well, I mean, podcasting in general has.
Yeah.
But yeah, martial arts, I never thought would be the space for podcasting, but it seems everyone's doing one at the moment. It's great.
I know when I
just give us a lot to listen to. It's good.
Well, when I first had the idea, I think there was only like 2 active ones, and then by the time I put in all the work and built up all the interviews, I'm like, all right, now there's like 10. So, it's good, and some of those 10 are no longer going, but some of them still are. And like I said, it's just, it's good. We, thinking back, talking about when I was in radio again, that's something you never would have. I mean, radio hosts wouldn't have people from other radio shows on their show, competing shows.
No.
They were the enemy. They were the competition. That would never happen. But, podcast and martial artists is just different. I tried starting a martial arts radio show back in the 90s, and no radio stations would put me on. mean, like I said, I was working in radio full time, and I pitched the idea, and they wouldn't do it. And one of the stations I worked at in about 2006 or 2007, I even went out, I found 4 sponsors and had like 15 guests lined up. Because we had the area I'm in, we have about 35 martial arts schools within about a 25-mile radius.
Oh, wow.
And I went and talked to all these schools, and they're like, oh, yeah, we'll sponsor it. We'll put ads on, blah, blah. And I went to the station manager. Here's the deal. I got a show idea. I got guests. I got sponsors. He's like, no, people won't listen. I'm like, what? Are you insane? Like, I have businesses willing to give you money to put ads on the show, and you don't want to do it. So he wasn't very bright. So,
well, I mean, it's their loss.
yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I wish I could have started it back in the 90s, because there's other people I would have loved to have get that are no longer with us back then and stuff. And
Yeah, for sure.
people that I met. But important thing is we're doing it now. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll put links for your website and your podcast and everything on the show notes for sure when the episode comes out.
Cool. Yeah, we'll have to get you on with us as well.
Oh, that'd be fun.
And we'll do the reverse of this.
Yeah, it'd be a blast.
Yeah, we'll do that.
So what is some advice you would give someone looking to get involved in martial arts for the first time? They know nothing about martial arts and they just want to know what they should look for. What should they look for in a school? What should they look for in an instructor? And maybe some things they should avoid.
The first thing I would say to anyone who wants to do martial arts is try and find the reason that you're doing it or that you want to do it, and try and have that reason as clear as possible, because the reason you want to do it will dictate the kind of school you go to. So, if your pure reason is I want to do this for self-defense, then you need to be very careful about the kind of place you go. The same as if you want to do it to become a great competition fighter, you need to handpick the school that you go to. So that'd be the main thing for me.
Okay.
Is try and be very clear about what you want to do, where you want to go, so you know how to get there.
Very cool.
As for what to look for, honestly, I think just a fun environment in terms of a martial arts school. I think a lot of the traditional martial arts school is very strict. You're one person at the front, you do your line work, which is great, that's fine. But for me, I definitely prefer the more community-based, where everyone's having a good time and a laugh. Doesn't mean the class is not well run and not disciplined. It just, you want to have fun.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
If you're not having fun, it's not worth doing.
And I think any school that teaches kids now has pretty much had to adopt that over the last 20 years.
Absolutely.
It's changed so much.
Yeah, for sure.
That's one thing I noticed in our school back in the 90s, and I've been at the same school since 1984. But back then, kids class, they'd maybe like once a month or once every other month they'd play a gaming class, like if they a special occasion or after they tested. And now it's like almost every class you almost have to do a game. I mean, they disguise it as exercise, so they're still getting exercise. They're warming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
of course.
like we do. Two of my favorites. We do roundhouse baseball, where they set up the pads as bases, and the kids have to kick the little ball with a roundhouse, but then they have to hop around, like squat down in like a duck thing and hop around the bases. So they're working out their legs, or they have to do the crab walk to get around the bases. And then another one we do is called penguin soccer, which I love watching the kids do. We actually tie their feet together, so they have to hop and kick with both feet. And it's obviously
I'll be honest, I want to play these games now.
They are fun. They are fun, but it's
you've just given me an idea for the weekend's class. To be fair,
well, there you go. I've had a few people take that idea from me. So, and the kids love it, and honestly, we've done it with the adults too, and the adults love it too. So.
Yeah, it does sound like good fun.
Well, and let's see. So you've talked about the MMA and the UFC a little bit already, so I'm assuming you are a fan. So curious then, are you more a fan of the modern day MMA and UFC, or do you prefer the old school where there was, not as many rules and it was no weight classes and style against style? Which do you prefer?
I prefer the modern day, mainly because that's where I kind of got into it.
Okay.
I didn't really pay much attention to it back in the day.
Oh, okay.
Mainly because I thought it was, again, like I said about BJJ, it just wasn't martial arts. It was just people dumped in a cage and fighting.
Right.
I could definitely appreciate the old stuff. I think without it, martial arts would be in a very different place today. So yeah, I definitely like to go back and watch some of the older stuff. But in terms of just quality of the martial arts that you see now, it's so much more refined and improved, and it's almost an art into itself now, MMA. So, right. Yeah, I definitely prefer the newer stuff.
Okay.
But I can appreciate the old stuff as well.
Yeah, I definitely recommend if you ever go back and watch UFC 1 through 6. They're just
Yeah, I've watched UFC 1.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will go back and check out the other ones.
Nice. So yeah.
It's very different. It's completely different now. It's crazy to see how far it's come, really. And it's crazy to think that was even allowed back then.
Yep, exactly.
Like when you watch it, you go, how did they get away with this?
Yep. And if you go back and listen to one of my earlier episodes, I interviewed a gentleman named Fred Eddish, who actually competed in UFC number 2. So yeah. So it's kind of fun to hear those stories. And yeah, I mean, it's completely, I mean, like you said, it's bonkers to think they would actually allow that back then. And I mean, literally the very first one, I think actually might have had 0 rules. And I think the second one, it was no biting, no eye gouging, no fish hooking. Everything else was allowed. Yeah. And I want to say it was UFC 2 or 3. I still remember it was Kimo Leopold versus a guy named Joe San, I think was the fight. And one of them got the other one in like a cradle hold and hit him in the groin like 15 times.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I'm probably like 20 years old, me and like 7-8 friends watching this, and we're like, this is awesome. You know? We had never seen anything like that before. And I'm like, obviously nowadays that would not be allowed, but to live through that and see it change over the years, it's definitely been an experience, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
And I suppose when you watch the older ones as well, you realize the steps they had to take to get it to where it is today.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it came close to not existing. It came very close to being gone because of all that stuff. So they had to make the changes, or if they didn't make the changes, it would not be here now. So
I do like the tournament bracket style. That would be cool if they did that again.
Yeah, and they do it in some countries. The U.S. just doesn't allow it. You know, the UFC won't do it, but you know, some countries still allow that for MMA. And I've judged probably 1,000 MMA fights going back to like 2003, 2004. Oh, wow. I actually got to judge 1 or 2 tournaments like that before the commissions were in place, and it was still kind of you know, a little shady and stuff. And I mean, I judged fights where they literally pulled people out of the audience to fight because they, you know, fighter didn't show up or something, and they're like, "Who wants to make $200? I'll do it." You know, yeah, it was definitely a different time back then. Nice.
So you judged MMA. How do you feel about the MMA judging? Because that's a controversial subject in MMA at the moment.
It is, and honestly, I'm not as much of a fan as I used to be. So I probably haven't sat down and watched a full MMA event in over 5 years.
Oh, okay.
And I need to, just because of it, because of my show, and I've had a few guys ask me about that. So I actually need to sit down and watch them. And I know, and it's judging's always been controversial. It always has been.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of states there was like no requirements on what it took to be a judge. There was people judging that had no martial arts backgrounds at all. They're like, here, look for this.
It's crazy.
Yeah, look for this, and write down who you think won. I mean, it's kind of crazy, kind of scary. It's obviously a lot of states now have at least some kind of training that you have to do. I've had to go through trainings in 3 different states, you know, over the years to be able to do it and actually get certified. I actually trained with Big John McCarthy, went to a 2-day seminar with him and stuff, and did some training. And so, yeah, I mean, I took it seriously when I did it, but the whole reason I got out of it, because it was, I mean, anytime there was a split decision, you know, we judges would get threatened by people. It's like, you screwed my fighter. One of the main reasons I got out of it. It wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
But I've heard a lot about the controversy, and I know they're trying to, you know, there's even some states that are, I don't know if this is happening yet, but I know a couple of years ago I heard there were some states talking about actually having the judges, instead of watching the cage, actually watching monitors, so they'd have multiple camera angles and get a better idea of what's going on. And that's one idea. When I was helping train other judges, I tried to get the state to actually pay for that. I said, well, next time we do an event, let's set up 3 cameras and basically put like a head camera on each judge. So then when we do a training video, instead of showing a training video with 15 camera angles from the UFC and telling people what to look for, because no judge will ever see that, I said, let's show them one with 3 different angles and say, if you're sitting on this side, you'll see this. If you're on, you can see this is why this guy gave him the point, but the other judge gave him the point because he could only see his back. And they never took that idea, and I think that would be a really good way to do it. But you know,
yeah, for sure.
So who knows? But it's
I think there's definitely there's a lot of room for improvement. I think in the way things are judged.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I need to start watching it again. We have a local event coming up, I think in September. I'm going to try to get to that one, because we used to have so many local events that probably a couple years before the pandemic hit, they just the commission went through a lot of changes, and I think we went like 3 or 4 years without an event, when we used to have almost 1 or 2 a month locally. I mean, I was judging a lot between the 3 states I judged. I was doing a good amount of, you know, at least probably 20 events a year for a while. I mean, you figure from about, 2004 till about probably 2000, just probably 11, 12 years, I did, almost, 1,000 fights. So, all right.
Yeah.
So,
well, if you are going to get back into it this year, there's been some great cards. So.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have to look into it again. I'll really have to. So and now that, I have another kid going off to college, so I'll maybe have a little more free time. So maybe I can do that. But so who are some names that you would put on your personal, like, Mount Rushmore of martial arts? Like, just some people you truly look up to, you admire. They can either be people that you've met and trained with, or just people you admire from afar. Someone like a Bruce Lee type thing. Just who are some, 2, 3, 4 names that you'd put on the top of your list?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a very good question. How many is Mount Rushmore? That's probably going to sound really.
Mount Rushmore is 4, but it can be. I mean, I've had some guests say 2. Yeah, I had one guest say 2. I had one guest give me about 12 names. So it's kind of up to you.
Oh, well, I'm going to try and stick with 4.
Okay.
I'll try and stick with 4. Bruce Lee's got to be there, right? He has to be.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce Lee's a massive influence on me, so he's got to be there.
Okay.
George St. Pierre.
Nice. Okay.
Oh, this is a good question. I could sit here for hours and think about it. I would put Iain Abernathy on there.
You're the second person that has mentioned him, so that's good. Nice.
Just mainly because he was kind of the one that opened my eyes to the stuff karate was missing, and kind of led me down that path. Okay, I'm going to go historical for the last one.
Okay.
And I'm going to say Gichin Funakoshi.
Oh, great answer.
Because he gets a lot of smack talked about him from me as well. Mm-hmm. To be fair, in jest, though we like to joke, but I mean, in reality, without what he did to karate, good or bad, we wouldn't be having this conversation today if it wasn't for him. So
exactly. Surprisingly, you're the first guest that said him, actually, if I remember.
Really?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised because he, like I said, he's especially I've interviewed at least 4 or 5 guys that have been Shotokan. I'm surprised you're the first one that's mentioned.
Oh, wow.
So that's really good.
What are some common names?
Honestly, I mean, obviously Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris are probably 2 of the most common ones, but a lot of it's people like their own instructors they'll name. Some, I think Jet Li has been named, Jackie Chan has been named. I'd say Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris are the 2 most common ones. Ed Parker has probably been named a handful of times, and then a lot of them, a lot of guests come up with names that no one ever has, which is kind of cool. So
nice.
All right.
Okay.
So in all your years of martial arts, is there a philosophy you've learned that is really important to you that rises to the top of your list that you keep coming back to?
Yes. And it goes back to Bruce Lee. Okay. Just his philosophy of absorbing what's useful and rejecting what's useless.
Nice.
That is something that, especially recently, that I use a lot. I used to be very careful about dismissing things in terms of I don't want to offend the traditional people or whatever, as if they're going to come down to my school and be like, what are you doing? How dare you not do this? How dare you move your foot 2 degrees the wrong way and that kind of stuff. That's not acceptable. So I'm much more free with kind of just dumping stuff that I don't find useful anymore.
Okay.
So yeah, I think Bruce Lee was onto something. Yeah. Believe it or not.
Agreed. All right. So a few fun questions to wrap it up. Now this one, favorite martial arts book.
Oh, favorite martial arts book. Okay. That's a good question. I've got a lot of martial arts books as well.
Nice. And at some point, I'm actually going to get around to compiling a list of every book my guests have named and put it on my website. I've been asked to do that. I just need to find the time to do it. So
cool. Okay. Well, this is a tough question. I'm trying to go for favorite in terms of content or just like overall look, presence.
Yeah. And if you want to name 2, you can. That's fine.
Okay. I'm gonna give you 2.
Okay.
For kind of just historical interest. I really like Neptune Publications did a reproduction of Gichin Funakoshi's Karate Do Kyohan.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And with all the original photographs, and it was kind of a fresh translation.
Wow. From
start to finish.
Okay.
And they released one, I think it must be about 10 years ago, they released a hardcover which was like an identical copy of the original Japanese with a sleeve and everything like that, which was really, really nice in a limited run. And then they also did the paperback one. So the paperback one is the one that I'll get out and flick through occasionally. Okay. And the hardcover one is the one that I rarely touch anymore.
Very cool.
But that's one just because of, historically it's got some really nice stuff in there and it's a nice glimpse into the past. The other one I'm going to choose is it's called Four Shades of Black.
Not familiar with that one.
By Gavin Mulholland.
Okay.
It's a Goju book. I mean, I don't study Goju, but I love that it's a coffee table book, essentially. It's a beautiful book. It looks really nice. It's something that you could just give to anyone who has no interest in martial arts and they go, this looks really cool. And the stuff in it's really good as well. So that's another one I'll throw in there.
Nice. Yeah, I'm actually reading about it right now on Amazon. I'm going to be adding that to my list because I love martial arts books.
It's just a really nice, it's so well put together. It's really nice.
Okay. And this one I'm excited to hear your answer because I know you said you were into video games. So favorite martial arts video game?
Oh, that's easy because I just finished playing it. I finished playing it about a couple of months ago. It's Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh, never heard of that one. Okay.
It only came out a couple of years ago. It's you play a samurai in feudal Japan, dealing with the Mongol invasion. It's fantastic. It's incredible.
Nice. I might have to check.
One of, if not the best video game I've played.
Wow. I don't play games like I used to, but that one actually sounds cool. I might have to check that out.
Yeah, it's incredible. I remember hearing about it when they announced it years and years ago and thinking, oh, this is going to be really cool. And it's just a stunning game to look at as well.
Okay.
It's one of those with very minimal kind of prompts on the screen and stuff. So you just get some really nice views of Japan. It's nice.
Nice. Well, I will add it to my list for sure. I want to check that out. So, all right. Yeah, how about a favorite martial arts TV show?
Cobra Kai.
Cool. You're a Cobra Kai fan. Okay.
It's got to be Cobra Kai.
Nice.
As cheesy as it is.
Oh, such a fun show.
It's so good. I love it.
So now when you watched it the first season, did you go back and rewatch The Karate Kid first?
No, I didn't.
Really? Okay.
But I mean, I've seen the first 3 Karate Kid films. I don't count the next Karate Kid.
Me either.
just the first 3.
Right. Yep.
Even though, having said that, if what's her name, Hilary Swank showed up in the show, I'd be all for it.
That would be cool. That actually would be cool.
Yeah. But no, those first 3 I've seen so many times that I could probably recite most of it. I've seen them a lot. So
I have friends that watch Cobra Kai that have never seen The Karate Kid. I'm like, you're missing so many little Easter eggs. You're missing so much. Yeah. I'm like, you have to go watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy. But I rewatch Karate Kid at least once a year anyway, and
I think the first Karate Kid movie is spectacular. I think it's great.
That's the reason I got into martial arts. That came out. I was 10 years old.
Oh, really?
I went opening night on a Friday night in my hometown, and when we were walking out of the movie theater, there was 2 gentlemen there handing out little yellow cards, and it was for free month of karate lessons in Tung Sudo.
Genius.
Absolutely. Yeah,
genius.
Especially in 1984. Genius. I mean, no one else would.
Yeah.
And so that Monday night, I jumped into Tung Sudo for the first time in my life, and it was kind of cool. And I've actually interviewed that instructor has been on my show, so kind of cool. But yeah, that movie will always have a very special place in my heart.
Yeah, it's great.
Cool.
I think it's such a brilliant film.
Nice. Well, so speaking of that, favorite martial arts movie?
It's got to be the original Karate Kid, yeah.
Nice. Can never go wrong with that answer.
No, I mean, I could say Enter the Dragon. Enter the Dragon is probably a close second.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Pat Morita as Mr. Miyagi is just something special. You can't beat that.
Yeah. Oh, he definitely owned that role. I mean, no, I could not have pictured any. I mean, I realized that they tried to get Fumio Demura to play that role. And he turned it down, and obviously they made the right choice with Pat Morita because he was Mr. Miyagi. I mean, he is such a perfect role. I only wish he could have been alive long enough to see Cobra Kai and to see the resurgence of the popularity.
Yeah, I do love how he's such a presence throughout the show.
Yes, they definitely did that.
I think they've done that really well.
Yeah, very respectfully, and it's such an important part of it. So very, very cool. Yeah, no, I'd say Enter the Dragon's probably in my top 5 too, and then I usually go Karate Kid, Enter the Dragon, and then usually like Best of the Best and The Perfect Weapon are probably my top 4. So
okay, if I was to have to give you 2 more, I think Rush Hour would be one.
Ooh, that's another good one. Jackie Chan. Nice.
I like, especially the first. I think the first one's great.
Yeah. All right. So, final question. This one doesn't have to be a martial arts movie, but do you just have a favorite movie fight scene?
Oh wow, that's a really good question.
Yeah. I just added that one like a month or 2 ago. I started asking it. So.
Oh, a favorite movie fight scene from any movie, not just a martial arts.
I mean, it can be martial arts, but it doesn't have to be.
The inner geek in me is screaming, so I'm gonna go with it. and I'm going to say the kind of the final battle of Avengers Endgame.
Oh, nice. That's a great. No one has said that yet. That's a great answer.
Really?
Yeah.
Just because of the culmination of 10 years worth of films.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
In one big kind of, it was like a comic book come to life. It was great. So yeah,
nice.
I'm going to go with that one.
See, now as a comic book fan, and you asked me some dream guests, I'd love to have some of the people who have been involved in Marvel stuff that are martial artists. Like I'd love Clark Gregg. I'd love to have him because he's a black belt in BJJ. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Agent Coulson. I'd love to have him on the show.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So and Ray Park, who was in the original X-Men movies. I'd love to have him on the show. So
he's Darth Maul in Star Wars, right, as well?
Yep. He was Darth Maul, and so some more dream guests there. And anyone like that who's involved in martial arts would be cool. And actually, the one that I've always talked about having on the show is John Cusack.
Okay.
He's one of my all-time favorite actors, and he's studied kickboxing since like the early 80s. He was trained with Benny the Jet back then, and he's actually used it in a few movies. He'd be another fun one. But
see, it's amazing when you think about martial arts in movies, it's just everywhere now. But even without you realizing it, it's everywhere.
Yeah. And it's and the technology and the stunts have become so good. It's also the bad part about that is it's tough for the general people to realize who's a real martial artist and who isn't.
Yeah,
because some of these guys, they make him look like, like Keanu Reeves. They make Keanu Reeves look like he's a 10th degree black belt in some of these movies he's done, and he's not a martial artist.
Yeah.
So that's the only bad thing about it is, people just assume they are and stuff. And
I do love the Matrix films though.
Yeah.
Especially the first one.
Yeah. First one's the best one. Definitely.
Oh, by far. Yeah.
And that's another thing with I'll watch anything to do with martial arts. No matter how bad. If it's horrible, I won't watch it again. But if it's good, I'll watch it multiple times. So if I'm ever in like a used DVD store and any kind of martial arts movie, if they have it, I'll buy it. So I have way too many.
Yeah, I love going back to some of the really old bad martial arts films.
Yep.
I went through a phase once where when I was probably about 16, where I would buy up, like all the Bruce Napolitan films they called them. After Bruce Lee died, where you get all these Bruce Lee imposters and they make essentially fake Bruce Lee films.
Yes, there were some really bad ones.
I kind of went through a phase of just buying up as many of those as I could find and developing a weird collection of odd,
nice
fake Bruce Lee films.
So then have you seen the early 80s comedy movies, They Call Me Bruce and They Still Call Me Bruce?
No, I haven't seen that.
You should watch those.
Okay. They call me Bruce and they still call me Bruce.
Yeah, They Call Me Bruce is the first one. They Still Call Me Bruce is the sequel. It's a comedian named, Johnny Yun is his name. He was like a stand-up comedian. I don't think has any actual martial arts training. Basically, everywhere he goes, he gets mistaken for Bruce Lee because he looks like him. Something like that. And I just remember his tagline, if I remember it correctly, when he's like confronting someone, he's like, with this hand, I'll punch your nose. With this foot, I'll kick your face. Take a good look at my face. I'm an Oriental. It's really cheesy and really bad, but they're entertaining. if you like if you like bad ones, you got to watch them.
I'll check that out. Yeah.
So anything else, Greg, that you want to mention before I let you go? This has been so much fun. I mean, I'm definitely a fan of the podcast. I need to go back and listen to some of your older episodes too. And I'm actually getting ready to be taking a really long car trip in next month. So I'll be listening to a lot of podcasts while I'm driving 17 hours. So,
nice.
So yeah, I'll be building
How
up
long,
those.
sorry?
17-hour car drive to drop my son off to college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Then 17 hours there, 17 hours back. So it'll be, I mean, obviously I won't do it all in once. We'll break it up a little bit.
No. But yeah, that's tough.
But yeah, my kids will have their headphones in and playing their video games. So I'll just be listening to podcasts the whole time. So it'll be good. Yeah,
that's where I listen to most of mine, to be fair, is in the car.
Yep, me too. I can't really listen to them at home because I'm usually at home. I'm too busy doing other stuff or I'm editing audio. But anytime I'm in the car, I pop on a podcast. It used to be just music. And once I got hooked on podcast, I'm like, oh, okay, this is my new thing in the car. So it's good.
Yeah. For me, it's podcasts and audiobooks lately.
I can't do audio. I like reading too much. I can't do audiobooks. I have to read it myself. Okay. Which is weird because I love podcasts, but I can't do audio. If I'm gonna do a book, I have to read it myself. That's just
interesting.
That's just me. I don't know. I'm kind of weird like that, but cool. But no, seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. This seriously has been so much fun. I've enjoyed it a lot.
No, thank you for asking me.
Yeah.
It's been great. Yeah.
Cool. And I will get a hold of you. Let's say it'll probably be about a month before your episode comes out. I think you're about 4 episodes ahead.
No worries. Yeah.
But I'll send you the link and anything else you want. And if you want to send me a picture to put with the episode of you, or I can just take the one off your website, whatever you want me to do. But it's been a blast.
No, that's fine.
Cool. And
we'll definitely set up having you come on ours as well. That'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. Let me know. We can make it work, and we will be in touch. But appreciate your time and enjoy the rest of your late evening.
It's all right. Yeah, it's what time is it here now? Just gone midnight, so it's not too bad.
Yeah. I think you're.
I'm off work tomorrow, so I can have a lie.
Oh, okay. That's not bad then. That's not bad. You're actually
it's all right.
my second guest from the UK this week, so I know.
Oh, really?
I know all about the time zones and the time changes and stuff. So I appreciate you working with me like that. So
no problem at all.
Well, you enjoy your night, and I gotta get ready for another interview. So.
That will enjoy. Thanks again for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll be in touch. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.